Am I wrong for telling my parents that they'll be a part of my children's lives only if they return my inheritance? My grandparents passed away when I was young. They left me an inheritance that could have covered my education and helped me start my life if my parents hadn't spent it. My cousins and older sister live debt-free and own their homes. But my father decided he knew better how to manage the money. In the end, when I received my funds, it was only $32,000, about 10% of what the others got. My parents also lost the funds that were left to my mom. I've cut them out of my life. They weren't at my wedding and haven't met my children. I have the only grandchildren they could see, so now my parents want to meet them. I said I'd forgive them and let them see the kids if they returned the money with interest. They think my request is absurd and would significantly harm their retirement fund. I wondered how much money they would have if my father hadn't thought he was smarter than my grandfather. My sister thinks I'm being cruel. I suggested she give me her money if she doesn't think it's important. She refused. I also told my sister to have a child if she wants them to have grandchildren. That didn't go over well either. Years have passed, and I'm still angry that my parents stole my future for my father's ego, thinking he could profit like my grandfather did. Am I really wrong? Now for the top comments. A significant reduction in their retirement savings suggests they do have the money, and they owe it to you. This isn't damage. It's compensation. You're not the asshole. If I were you, I'd sue them for the harm they caused. If they appropriated your inheritance, that could be considered theft. And it's clearly a substantial amount. As a minor, you were under your parents' guardianship, and they were obligated to care for your financial interests. If they had no investment experience, they should have consulted professionals. Losing 90% of the funds is extremely irresponsible. Check your local laws. It seems you have the right to demand a full account from your parents on how the money was lost. I'm suspicious. How did 90% of your funds disappear while your sister's money and their retirement savings remained intact? It's also worth finding out if it's still possible to sue them. Just let them know that you're being merciful by not taking them to court and not making them look like fools in public. You're not the asshole. On the contrary, you're being too kind. If I were in your place, I'd sue and seek to freeze their assets so they can't sell them until they return your money. My sister was an adult and immediately received her inheritance. Here's a similar text in different words. Inheritance. My mom also lost a significant portion of her money. My sister was luckier, so my parents chose a risky investment to avoid risking all their savings. They used your inheritance for gambling, and now they owe it back to you with interest. If they had any conscience, they'd compensate for that money from their retirement savings. Why should they enjoy a comfortable retirement while you've lost a significant amount? Last story. Am I a jerk for calling out my girlfriend when she posted that she doesn't need a man? I'm 27, and I believe my 35-year-old girlfriend is a hard-working and smart woman who absolutely deserves her success. We've been together for 5 years. When I first met her, she wasn't struggling financially, but she was working at a job she hated. At the time, she wanted to go back to university for a master's degree, but was hesitant due to fear of increasing debt. When our relationship became serious, I suggested she move in with me so she could finish her studies without worrying about expenses. We managed to make it work, and shortly after graduating, she landed her dream job which happened about a year ago. A few days ago, she decided to post a long message on social media, expressing pride in her achievements. Overall, it was a harmless post, but one part really hurt me. She claimed to be a self-sufficient woman who, despite all the challenges, managed to achieve everything on her own, and that she's proud she doesn't have to rely on a man. These statements were not only untrue, but they also felt like a slap in the face, because she didn't acknowledge my contribution to her life. While she was studying, I provided her with housing and food so she could focus on her education. Although she worked part-time as a teaching assistant, I supported her by suggesting she use the money she earned for minor expenses. Even though my expenses didn't significantly increase after she moved in with me, we had to rent a more expensive and spacious place. Nevertheless, I made sacrifices for her to comfortably pursue her education. I commented on her post, "What about the guy who paid the bills while you were getting your master's? Am I invisible?" As expected, this sparked a wave of angry comments and private messages accusing me of all sorts of negative things. She was furious about my comment, called me a terrible person, and demanded an apology. I refused to apologize, but offered to delete the comment if she would correct the post and remove the part about not needing a man, which I thought was important. After a long argument, she packed her things and went to stay with a friend to think things over. Now, I don't know what to think about this whole situation. I understand it's just social media, and admit that my comment was written in the heat of the moment. But her reaction worries me. Instead of discussing things like an adult, she chose to leave. So, am I a jerk? Her lie was exposed, so now she's ashamed. You're not a jerk at all. I really don't understand the people sending him angry messages. What can they say? She was caught lying, so what are they condemning him for? You're not a jerk, but if you keep pushing, she might leave, as she already said she doesn't need a man. If you're okay with that, stick to your truth. She's already gotten what she wanted, and is now ready to move on. She'll paint you as the abuser, and herself as the strong, independent woman who left a toxic relationship. She's achieved her goal, so don't wait for her to leave you to just end the relationship. Don't make it ugly. Don't blame her. If you need to say something, speak like this. Say that you don't feel valued and don't trust her as an equal partner, that both of you deserve the right person, and wish her well. No fights, no drama. And if she realizes later that she made a mistake, don't take her back. It's unlikely, but if it does happen, let it be a lesson for the future. And I hope you also learn to be with someone who shares your values and sees the relationship as a partnership in facing challenges. Yeah, he should just change the locks and move on. That would be the perfect ending when she tries to come back home and her key doesn't work anymore. Just remind her that she's self-sufficient and doesn't need a man,